Sorry.
I felt it was a bit ridiculous. Why would you stay at Manchester United at this time? But yeah, jokes. I'm taking a screenshot because I'm gonna tell everyone we had two Paul Ghosts. On
Yeah,
the
one's more than enough.
Right. So finally, we have got Paul Gost back on the Indie Football podcast for a special transfer segment. The good part I want to talk about today is that around a decade back, Liverpool sold Felipe Coutinho, a little less than that. They tried to replace him with a lot of players, but it took a lot of years for them to get someone like Florian Wirtz. But the Liverpool Echo had a very good friend of ours in James Pearce, and when in August of 2019 they replaced him with Paul Gost, who is another friend of ours and another of our former guests. So, Paul, you are the words on the Indie Football podcast. How are you doing, mate?
Good. Yeah, good to be back on. It's when were we last on? Was it last summer? Was it?
Yeah,
Keep,
it's been quite a while.
yeah, keeping very busy. It's been a very busy June, hasn't it? I think a lot of people expected Liverpool to be active, but didn't think they'd be this active. What is it? A historic spend already. So yeah, but looking forward to Monday when I've got 2 weeks off and I can finally forget about transfers and all that sort of stuff for a couple of weeks until we fly out to Hong Kong for the pre-season tour.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, before you forget about transfers for a bit, we thought, this was the right time to call you as on a segment. And because a lot of Indian football fans and across the globe also have been wanting to know what's going on, this, that, going on Twitter, refreshing their feed. Especially as you mentioned, it's been a very busy transfer window. But today, when I woke up in the morning, I didn't check Twitter because I was like, okay, I'm anyway going to meet
Yeah.
Paul. So it's gonna be fun. Anyway, Paul, so I'll cut to the chase. The most important question in the minds of Liverpool fans right now: what do you see? What should we expect from the transfer market, having signed players like Florian Wirtz, Frimpong, and Kirk also? What should Liverpool fans expect from here towards the end of August?
Yeah, so I think the focus at the moment is on outgoings. I think Liverpool have been very proactive, very aggressive, and got the number one targets through the door. I don't know about you two guys, but I was a little bit surprised when uh, we got the word that Florian Wirtz wanted to come to Liverpool over Bayern Munich. And I think, speaking to
Right.
people sort of mid-May time around the club, I think the feeling was that he would still stay in Germany, either sign a new contract with Bayer Leverkusen or move to Bayern Munich, which is the path that a lot of young German footballers take. So, I mean, I'm sure we're going to come on to Wirtz in a bit more detail, but once that got over the line, it was obviously a historic club record deal, wasn't it? 116 million.
Yeah.
Kirk's a sort of long-standing one, which I don't think too many people were surprised about when that was finally wrapped up and it was a done deal. But the level of spend, and you have to include Mamadashvili in this, means that
Yeah.
you know Liverpool aren't, don't have bottomless reserves of cash, so there will have to be some outgoings that come into the
Fair
equation now.
enough.
And having done such really impressive business early on, I think that is the focus now. So, we can talk about players whose futures are under speculation, but that's very much, the way people are looking at it now and looking to bring in a little bit more to sort of balance the books a little bit, and then they might take a little bit of more of a look over, what might be possible, in a few weeks time.
Makes
As
sense.
you,
Well, Paul,
as you,
I just want to tell you one more thing. We have got Darshan Rana here, who is known as that Liverpool guy. He's one of the biggest Liverpool accounts in India, and he's a big fan of yours. So I wanted him to be here on the podcast. Darshan, please take the stage.
hello, Paul. I am also very happy to have a conversation with you. And as Anukar said, that he didn't check his Twitter in the morning. I did the same. I know we have more reliable guys coming over in the podcast, so I was very happy and very calm this morning. But talking about outgoings, as you mentioned, our focus is now on outgoings. There are plenty of rumors regarding Darwin Núñez situation with the Napoli. So, what's your take on that situation? Because we all know that Darwin Núñez might leave this summer. So, what your take on holds the situation?
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at his season as a whole, and he's regressed, hasn't he? He scores 15 in his first season under Jurgen Klopp, and everyone can see the potential, the chances that he's getting, the sort of spaces that he's working himself into, the shooting opportunities, and you just sort of thinking if he can just take a few more of these chances that come his way, he'll get that goal tally up. And then he scores 18 in the second season, and you're still saying the same thing. If he could just build a little bit more, Darwin Núñez should have got closer to 25 goals last season, really, given the chances that came his way. And this season it's been very different. It's been a real step back, hasn't it? And he scores 5 Premier League goals, is it? 2 in the same game.
5.
Massively important, of course, at Brentford, but it just hasn't really worked for Darwin this season under Arne Slot. However they're coaching it in the final third, the chances of the shooting opportunities, and as a result, so of the minutes. He started one Premier League game in 2025, which was Southampton at home, and that theoretically is the easiest game of Liverpool's season. The team bottom at home.
Absolutely.
So I think the writing has been on the wall now for a while. So no surprise to hear that Liverpool are looking to field offers for Núñez, and Napoli very much, the front runners at the moment, the Serie A champions. They're looking to maybe move on, Victor Osimhen and then sort of look to reinvest that. So yeah, as things stand, they are the front runners. There has been talk of clubs from Saudi Arabia, and there was interest in January, but at the moment it is Napoli who lead the chase. And I think possibly once they resolve Osimhen's situation, that's when we might see a few more dominoes fall into place where Núñez is concerned.
Do you, by any chance, see a chance of Osimhen coming in? If, by any chance, because there have been speculation in the media. Now, personally, I don't think, as a Liverpool fan, that would happen. But, do you see other murmurings going on about that?
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it reported maybe in Italy that that could be part of the thinking. I don't know how much truth there is in it, to be honest, at this stage. I think in terms of what Liverpool might do with the number 9, I think all supporters are sort of hopeful of maybe some developments on Alexander Isak's situation. But at the moment, are very relaxed. We are only in very early June. They don't go back to pre-season training until Monday. So, they've got the time and the space to take a little bit of a step back now and assess what might happen with 1 or 2 players. Sure, we're going to come on to them. But certainly Darwin Núñez is one of those. Maybe Federico Chiesa. There's obviously Liverpool have rejected an approach from Bayern Munich for Luis Díaz, and Barcelona that are interested as well. So there's a lot of plates being spun at the moment. And, with it still being very early doors, I don't think we can rule anything out too strongly or rule anything in at the moment. So, Victor Osimhen, I'm not too sure. We looked at a world beater maybe 3 years ago. I was in Naples for that game when, he ran Liverpool ragged and Napoli won 4-1 in the Champions League game. But I'd be a little bit concerned over why he ended up at Galatasaray for this season. Turkish football, not necessarily one of the strongest leagues in the world. By all accounts, he had a fantastic campaign there. I think he scored over 30 goals in all competitions. But I'm not sure why he's ended up at Galatasaray. So I think we'll wait and see what happens there. And the one thing we do know at the moment is Napoli are looking to wrap something up for Darwin Núñez. Just the case of, do they have to move Osimhen on first?
Do you expect Napoli to reach a resolution with Liverpool?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. It's just a case of the asking price, really. I think Liverpool might have to be a little bit realistic in their asking price from a European club, as opposed to a club from the Saudi Pro League who, historically pay a little bit over the odds, shall we say, or certainly a bit more than their European counterparts. So we'll wait and see. And for me, if you're asking my opinion, I think Liverpool would be best served almost just washing the hands of Darwin Núñez, if that's maybe too harsh a phrase. I think it's just now the right time to move him on. He can go and push on and make his move and restart his career somewhere else, and Liverpool can get the fee into the bank balances and move on, really. But we'll wait and see. We'll do sometimes like to, hold out for the best fee possible, which is, within their rights. But it just feels to me as though it might be a good time just to move him on and, well.
Absolutely. Paul, one more thing, in the morning, news came out about Luis Diaz, as you mentioned at the start of the episode. And now I wanted to ask you, there have been a lot of reports in the media from Colombian reporters, from reporters worldwide, saying different things. Luis Diaz himself has said that he doesn't mind staying, and of course he's a integral part of the squad, honestly. And there have been talks about his salary. An article came out from the Liverpool Echo, which was written by you, in which you mentioned that he's on 140,000 not pounds, not 55,000 that has been reported. So, what exactly is the situation on that? How are Liverpool seeing that? What is the take from the club and from the players' side, in your knowing?
Yeah, so every conversation I've had around Luis Diaz this summer is the same thing coming back, that Liverpool are not looking to sell him, and that's been borne out by the rejection of Barcelona's approach and Bayern Munich. So two huge clubs there. Let's face it, two absolute heavyweights of the game who will consider
Right.
themselves equal, and the fact that they are both interested in Diaz tells you the standing in which he's viewed, I guess, in European football and world football. He's coming off an incredible season for me. I thought he was superb, really. 13
Yeah.
Premier goals,
See,
leading the line as a number 9 at times, obviously competing with Cody Gakpo on the left side. 17 goals in all competitions. He's a really important part of what Liverpool look to do under Arne Slot. So I can see why Liverpool are relaxed about the situation. 2 years left on his deal, 28 years of age, and Liverpool, under no pressure to sell. No, I think what has happened is maybe he's been expecting, or maybe he's been promised talks will be undertaken about a new contract, and they haven't yet materialised because Liverpool, are really relaxed about his situation. Like I say, with 2 years left on his deal and him being 28, so I think he would like to earn a little bit more, and maybe he feels on the back of his season that he's probably earned that right. But Liverpool are happy to proceed with the way things are with Luis Diaz, and maybe they get to a situation next year where he's got a year left, and then they can make a decision either way on either selling him, if their interest is still there, or look to tie him down for another contract. I'd be to say Liverpool would view him in the same boat as a Mo Salah and a Van Dijk, where they're happy to hand out huge contracts to a player who's at least going to be nearing his 30s. But yeah, I think Liverpool very, very calm and relaxed about the situation and the interest from the Saudi Pro League again. I think Liverpool look at it in terms of there was interest from Al Hilal with Bruno Fernandes, and there was talk of £100 million, and obviously Fernandes ends up committing himself to United, so that interest
Which
goes.
is a bit ridiculous, but okay. Just kidding.
Sorry.
I felt it was a bit ridiculous. Why would you stay at Manchester United at this time? But yeah, jokes apart, I do understand the feeling behind it.
A long way back for them, isn't it? Let's face it, but that's none of Liverpool's business, really. But yeah, I mean, so this 100 million ballpark that they were talking about for Fernandes, I think Liverpool look at that and think, well, Diaz is 2 years younger. He's just won the Premier League title. He's been an important part of the team who's won the league. So, why would you ask for anything less? So I think Liverpool, like I say, very relaxed about the situation, not looking to sell him unless an absolutely stupid offer comes in, and that is the lay of the land as things stand.
Interesting. Now, Paul, as we have talked about contracts, I read an article which gave me a lot of relief some time back, in which you had mentioned that Konate's agent was, in discussions, and there had been positive progress a couple of months back on the contract. Now, of course, with the rumor mill, there have been a lot of murmurings, a lot of shoutings about this, that, and nobody really knows, I feel. According to you, do you see Konate staying at the club for more than 1 year? Do you see him extending? What is Liverpool's stance regarding it? How do you view the whole situation?
So we spoke to Ibu after the Crystal Palace game, after Liverpool won the league, and that was actually his birthday, his 26th birthday, and we, obviously turned on to the contract situation. And the interesting thing for me was, if you look back and you read those quotes, he said the speculation from the big journalists is all completely fake. And he basically really dismissed what had been reported. And I think what he was alluding to was this idea that he's asked for a certain amount of money. But he did say that his agent had spoken to the club the week before. So the Palace game is the 25th of May, so the week before, you're looking at sort of mid-May now. And it did seem as though there were positive developments on the situation. Now, here we are now, 6 weeks later, with no resolution. But I think, having followed Liverpool closely, like you guys will have done over the last year, the contracts with Mo Salah and Virgil van Dijk, they're not just something that can be resolved overnight. So
Right.
I don't think Liverpool will feel that they can get him tied down to a new deal. And I think they will be prepared to basically not sell him this summer and just back themselves so they can get a new deal over the line between now and the end of this coming season, and then go from there. They certainly don't in a Trent Alexander-Arnold situation where they're losing a player that they don't want to lose for nothing. But, I think they will back themselves that this is a player who wants to stay at the club, and, they will see it as a bit of a Van Dijk, Salah style, take it down to the wire and see how it goes.
So Paul, there is a possibility if Konate doesn't extend his contract, then we will consider that club can sell him in future. Means if he doesn't sign in January, club should look for the replacement or cash in on him.
I don't think they'll cash in on him in January. I think for clubs like Liverpool, having a player on board of that quality for 6 months is probably more valuable than a cut price fee at that stage, because you have to replace them, which is inevitably going to cost you more anyway, and particularly in January, not necessarily a bit of a buyer's market. So I think they would do that. I think they would back themselves to get it over the line. And I think also that's why they're quite relaxed about the situation with Marc Guéhi. He's in a bit of a similar boat to Crystal Palace, isn't he?
Yeah. Of course.
Is a year younger than Konate? So there is that. And, I think Liverpool are playing a waiting game there in terms of seeing what Crystal Palace might ask for this summer. And that if it is a bit too much, then they're prepared to wait, knowing that they can perhaps get him on a free transfer in a year's time. So with Konate, I think they will think that they'll be able to get it over the line, but I wouldn't see them selling him in January if they haven't at that stage.
Well, right. Interesting. Paul, now, of course, like as you mentioned about Marc Guéhi, of course, from I've been listening a lot to David Lynch, Louis Steele, and of course, reading your articles also quite a bit. And of course, there is a lot of interest, as you mentioned, in Marc Guéhi. But we know that Palace and Steve Parish, they are tough negotiators. They will take them right to the wire. What is the feeling inside the club? Do you think something is inevitable for Marc Guéhi, or do you think there's still a big valuation gap? How do you see that from your side?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think Liverpool have been a little bit realistic now in terms of the amount of money they've spent. So, Marc Guéhi was wanted by Newcastle last summer, wasn't he?
Right.
Palace turned down 4 bids for Marc Guéhi, and they were all round about the 60 million mark. So, they're going to have to, decrease their valuation significantly if Liverpool are going to come to the table this summer. Now, how much that drops before Liverpool are at the table for him, we don't know at this stage. It'll have to come down quite significantly, I would imagine, by at least 20 million at the very least. But Liverpool do like him, and if there is a deal to be done, I think they would look long and hard about doing that and bringing him in. But at the moment, I think they see it as having Konate and Van Dijk established as the first choice centre-back pairing, having already spent over 200 million this summer. And I think they're not necessarily looking to buy a centre-back who's going to cost 50, 60 million. So they've got this long-term test for a young defender, and we know that's going back to sort of Levi Colwill 2 years ago, and then Lenny Yoro and Dean Huijsen. So these players have been on the radar for a number of years, and that sort of profile of player is still being looked at. A young defender who can eventually take Virgil's mantle in a number of years. But I think Guéhi might sort of represent a bit of a market opportunity for Liverpool if Crystal Palace can bring that asking price down. And we know that they're having a lot of difficulties being confirmed as being Europa League, participants next season. The fact that John Textor is owner
of course.
also Leon as well. So wait and see what happens with that. There's talk of them bringing in Ousmane Diomande from Sporting, who is essentially going to be Guéhi's replacement, maybe for the short term, certainly for the long term. So, I think Liverpool are very sort of just content to see how this situation develops. And if Palace, say, for example, they're not allowed in Europe and they do miss out on the European funds that come with the Europa League, albeit it's nowhere near the Champions League level of revenue. But, Palace are not one of those clubs, like I mentioned then, Darshan, about Liverpool being relaxed enough to see a player's value for 6 months in the team rather than sell at price. I wouldn't necessarily say Palace are in the same boat because they're not the club Liverpool's revenues. So, a lot depends on Palace's finances, really. I'm sure they would not want to lose Marc Guéhi for nothing. So, I think it's very much a waiting game on that situation now.
Right.
In incomings, we are also linked with players like Ekitike, and also people are talking about Isak also. So
but the big question, Alexander Isak, is he coming to Liverpool, Paul?
Well, that is the big question. What your opinion on this situations, striker situation?
I mean, this is one with a lot of sorts of strings attached to it, and a lot of dominoes need to fall into place. Newcastle are trying to get him to a new contract. I think I read the report from the Times that he earns around about £130,000 a week. Newcastle's highest earners are around about 150, and they're looking to put him sort of in line with that. But no real PSR concerns for Newcastle at the moment, like there was last summer when they had to sell Elliot Anderson and Yakuba Minter. There was talk of them having to sell Anthony Gordon to Liverpool at the time. There was a lot of real sort of fly by the seat of your pants negotiations at the time at Newcastle. I don't think it's the same this summer, and they've just qualified for the Champions League. So I think they're in a good position. As much as Liverpool supporters probably don't want to hear that when it comes to paying Alexander Isak. Now, the only issue maybe Newcastle are having at the moment is landing their primary targets. They're after Nottingham Forest have rejected that. They were after João Pedro, and he's just being confirmed as a Chelsea player today.
It's
kind of bringing James Trafford and not making much progress on that score either. So Newcastle having quite a lot of difficulty adding to their squad at the moment for whatever reason. Now, you mentioned at the top of the show there, Andy Karsh, about Coutinho and the money that Liverpool got for him, and they were able to reinvest it in other areas of the pitch and really push on. Could that be a situation for Newcastle where they accept that they're going to sell Isak and then bring in their primary targets with the money that they've already got and the money that will come from that? Now, that's just me speculating there, really. I'm sure Newcastle fans would fight tooth and nail to keep their best players, their best striker. But might Alexander Isak agitate for a move? Doesn't necessarily seem the type of character who would do that. But, I'm sure if you ask him, he would rather be playing for a club who have designs on winning the Champions League rather than just qualifying for it. But, there's a lot has to happen here for Liverpool to get this deal over the line, I think. And at the moment, it looks some way off.
Fair enough. Now, Paul, I won't take more than 3-4 minutes. Just a last couple of questions which I wanted to ask you, if you don't mind. One of them is regarding outgoing. So, of course, there have been a lot of reports about Harvey Elliott, Tyler Morton, even Stefan Bajcetic's future. How do you see it, happening in this summer? Do you see a lot of suitors in the market? Do you see them all getting gone? Do you see them by any chance staying at the club? Of course, Tyler Morton, I can understand, is in a different boat altogether. But players like Harvey Elliott, players like Stefan Bajcetic, who have been important cogs in Klopp's wheel, what do you think is going to happen with their futures?
Yeah, but Bajcetic is an interesting one. I remember speaking to Slot about him, and he was raving about how good the player was. I think this was transfer deadline day last year. So it was the day his loan went through to Red Bull Salzburg. And he was basically saying he does have a long-term future at Liverpool and they do have a plan for him, but he needs to go and play. Now, obviously, didn't quite work out in Salzburg, so he goes back to Spain with Las Palmas. can't say I know too much about how that went, in all honesty. So he's a bit of an interesting one at the moment. There's a bit of a question mark over what happens there. I guess he might have to show and prove in pre-season. But with Tyler Morton, I think now the time has come for him to move on, and he probably would have moved in January had he not had a shoulder injury, which kept him out for 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
Loads of clubs interested in Tyler. It was the same last summer. We had a number of clubs in the Championship. I think Leipzig were one who were looking at him, and Bayer Leverkusen as well. And there was a report from Paul Joyce on Monday with a sort of updated list of clubs who were looking at him. So, yeah, I expect him to go. He's just started for England under 21s, hasn't he, in the European Championship, playing central midfield. So, if had he been, had France or Germany or Spain won that competition and their central midfielder was, you'd be looking at him thinking, well, this lad's got a big future. So I'm sure Liverpool won't be looking to sell him on the cheap by any means, but I think the time has come now to sort of go the separate ways and wish him well and get some funds through the or into the kitty rather.
Fair enough.
Elliott,
Yeah.
As Anukash asked about Elliott also, what do you think? Will he move in this transfer window? Because he needs game time. We all know that how good player he is, and recently he showed in his performance with England in under 21 Euros tournament. So, do you see him moving away from Liverpool to get some regular game time and making sure he will feature in World Cup squad of England? So,
I hope not. I hope. Because I love Harvey as a player, and I know how committed he is to Liverpool and how much he loves Liverpool. So I hope he stays. I think Liverpool have got a really nice balance in midfield at the moment with, your 4 players into the 2 positions. You Gravenberch, Jones, McAllister, and Szoboszlai playing for those 2 positions, and then further forward you've got obviously Florian Wirtz and Harvey Elliott, who can sort of come in and deputise as and when. And I think that might be one of the things Arne Slot has learned from last season, to trust, a little bit more, a few more of his players in that squad. Obviously, you can't really criticise it because Liverpool have won the Premier League by 10 points. But I think at times, maybe he was a bit reluctant to trust, 1 or 2 players who didn't play a whole lot. And Harvey was, being near the top of that list. So I'd like to see him stay. He can obviously play in a number of positions and he could be a real asset to Liverpool, and he's still only 22. But he might have, plans to go and push on and play somewhere else. And, if that does happen, then Liverpool will be looking for maybe 40, 50 million for someone like that. I'm sure there will be interest. And I just think at the moment, maybe Harvey's got a little bit of thinking time to do to decide what is next for his career. And I'm sure Liverpool won't force him out the door by any means, but I think the ball is in his court at the moment.
Fair enough. So as we reach the end of the segment, and Paul has of course been kind enough to answer all our queries and in the most gentlemanly manner possible. Paul, as we move towards the end, it's a non-transfer related question. How has Paul Gorst, the Liverpool fan, been happy covering the transfer window so far? Florian Wirtz has come in, Jeremy Frimpong has come in, Kirkes has come in. Like, it must be dreamland land working at the Liverpool Echo at this point of time, covering all this and putting out articles.
Not necessarily covering the transfers. I mean, it's obviously exciting for supporters. It's interesting writing about club record deals and start doing a little bit of digging into the sort of the past of Florian Wirtz and why he's so highly rated and all that sort of stuff. So, but for me, it was more just covering the Premier League title win. What an incredible sort of
Yeah,
season.
absolutely.
What a historic day it was against Tottenham, and then what an incredible afternoon it was for Crystal Palace. And then I was fortunate enough to be on the open top bus for the tour at the citywide parade, and just seeing what it meant to people. I think the Liverpool City Council estimated that around about 1.3 million people or something were on the city streets that day, and just seeing what it meant was incredible. And then writing about it all and so on, and it's just an incredibly exciting time to be a Liverpool journalist, and for yourselves, obviously supporters. So just to be following it, covering it, supporting it, watching it, however you sort of enjoy it, it's just a really special time. So, I think everyone has to enjoy it, however they are sort of soaking it all in.
Absolutely, Paul. So thank you so much, Paul, for your time. Guys, please do share every Paul Gost article you see from now towards the end of your life. Because I try to do that, and he and every reporter, journalist I know, David Lynch, Louis Steele, James Pierce, Paul Gost, each one of them are the kindest human beings. When you talk to them, always good to reply, and always, people who are good human beings at the end of the day. So it's a pleasure having you here once again, Paul. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for taking out the time. It means a lot to us. We look forward to having you very soon to discuss more transfers, to discuss more about the human you are, the journalist you are, to have these segments more often. So thank you so much for tuning in. Do share this video, do hit the subscribe button, do everything that everyone has to say at the start of a YouTube video. All I want to say is that to keep supporting Liverpool FC because here we are and tell the world that we are Liverpool champions of England. Thank you. Thank you, boss.